Keeping my retro gaming collection in mint condition is important to me for several reasons. One of them, keeping them clean and in working order. While there are many ways to clean your cartridge-based games, the best way to keep them clean throughout their entire life is putting them in a Collector Protector gaming case. Preventative maintenance is the best maintenance. Not to mention, they make them in many different sizes for multiple types of games, game boxes, Funko Pops, VHS tapes, and even gaming consoles. I've invested a lot of time and money into my collection, and I want it to stay working and looking great as long as possible. Thanks to the help of Collector Protector, I'll be able to enjoy my collection for years to come. Get yours today at www.collectorprotector.com and start protecting the games and collectibles you love. Also, follow them on Instagram at Collector Protector for updates on new products. What's up, nerd geeks and gamers alike? It's Nerdy Nick, and I'm back with another video. Making sure my mic is on and recording because the last 6 takes it wasn't. So, without further ado, let's get to the topic. Today's video is brought to us by a company called Retrotainment out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They asked me if I would like to check out a game of theirs, and that game happens to be Haunted Halloween 86, The Curse of Possum Hollow. This game is a digital-only game, well, at least for the Switch. It is, however, an NES game, and it actually came out like 4 years ago. But this October, they ported it to the Switch. So, I spun the wheels, I gave it a look-see. So here is my takeaways, my first look kinda semi-review of Haunted Halloween 86. And real quick, guys, I want to add, I did change up my scoring system because before I didn't have one and now I do. And you'll hear my whole spiel about it in the video. So let's just get right to that. Oh, and also I want to say a big shout out again. Thank you so much, Collector Protector, for always sponsoring my channel, my videos, my content. It's been great working with you guys over the years. So here's to many more. It seems with every week there comes out another retro-inspired indie game, mostly in the 8-bit style. The difference with most of those games and this one, Haunted Halloween 86, is that this game is an NES port. Retrotainment, the Pittsburgh-based company behind this title, released this game for the NES about 4 years ago. But this is the newest NES game to hit the Switch since Wario's Woods, which came out in 1994. With this game officially launched on the Nintendo Switch, I think it's time to get into my takeaways from the game. But before we get too far ahead in my thoughts on the game, I'd like to clarify and establish my rating system. I realized that with my previous review, see Sydney Hunter on my channel, I didn't have a point system that validated my score, and that was my mistake. My scoring system will be based on several categories. They are graphics, sound and music, gameplay and control, story, overall value. I feel with these categories in place, it will help me establish a thorough scoring system with solid reasoning. Each category will get a total of 1 total point. If it's a perfect game, it'll receive 5 points. If the game's graphics scored 0.5, gameplay a 1, sound a 1, story a 2.5, the overall value a 0.5, the scores will then be added for a total point value. Remember, reviews, first thoughts, takeaways are opinions and should be treated as such. As a reviewer, I always recommend playing the game for yourself, unless the game is total garbage. So now with that out of the way, let's get busy. The game centers around 2 main protagonists, who also led the first game in the series, Donnie and Tammy. The two don't get creeped out too easily when things start taking a turn for the worse in a very familiar way. These two are very punk in their appearance and dialogue, which adds a different feel than most other platformer/beat-em-up characters. Donnie and Tammy are about to get their trick-or-treat on when spooky happenings start taking place at the old farmhouse where Harry, the old and crazy farmer, hurls the two into a nightmare yet again. Trapped with no quick escape, they must battle their way out of this doom if they wish to survive. In front of them lie piles of enemies, bosses, and environmental hazards differing from level to level. Aside from the two main protagonists, you can switch back and forth from them at any time instantaneously. There's a total of 7 nightmarish levels, upgradable set of special moves, unlockable with game points earned through battle, chiptune music designed just for NES hardware, and lastly, the game is encoded entirely in the 6502 assembly language. That means it's true 8-bit. First up is the graphics. The graphics are true to the advertisement here. This is a true nature 8-bit game. The graphical style reminds me of one of my favorite games for the NES, River City Ransom. The sprites for the characters seem like they could have just been pulled out of the game, although the wardrobe design is completely different. I do like the animations the characters make when getting hit. Donnie and Tammy slowly start to turn into green zombie-like state the more you get hit, and I think that's a neat visual kind of health bar, so to speak. I enjoy when games do that. It adds a sense of urgency and doom. The backgrounds are nice, but nothing groundbreaking here. They're there, and that's just fine. The character attack motions are fluid. As noted earlier, there's different attack combos you can upgrade, and each have their own animations. I did, however, run into some slowdown at times, but that's expected. It's an NES game after all. Total graphical score, 0.77. Sound and music. The sound is very much what you'd expect from an NES game as far as what the machine is capable of processing, but also with the crisp clarity that the Switch and modern consoles produce. It still has that kind of classic muffled crunch sound when you punch an enemy, but it's just in HD. I do find that the soundtrack is a bit limited as far as being diverse within the levels. I understand that again, they made this for the NES, but the music can be quite repetitive. With the levels being on the longer side, I'd appreciate just a little bit more. The boss stage music at the end of each chapter is a welcome change in pace. And pulling off a special move also makes a different noise to differentiate itself, which is nice. Initial sound and music score, 0.5. Next up is gameplay and control. So I'm very particular with my platformers and beat-em-ups. I like my characters to control with smooth, solid response, enemy hitboxes covering up most of their bodies so it's fair to hit, and no sliding when stopping from a run. That stuff drives me nuts. This game has some good and bad of both of those things I've mentioned. For starters, the characters respond well, while I did have some trouble pulling off some of the more complicated special moves. It wasn't that I couldn't do the button combos, it was just for every try, I could only do it every 4th or 5th time. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, maybe the inputs weren't working, but my combos shouldn't be difficult to pull off, especially in a platformer. There are several stages in the game where the level scrolls and you must keep up. This makes it very difficult to use all your special moves on enemies while the level keeps pushing you, also while you're platforming at the same time. The double jump, however, is your best friend in this game. Though this game is very challenging, and yes, there is an easy option, I played on normal. I found myself using the passcode system quite a bit to return to stages I had died previously before. The nice thing is, you have both characters at your disposal in every part of the game that I've played so far. So if you find yourself in a tight spot with only one hit left before you die, you can hit the minus button on your Joy-Con and switch to the other character, who actually has their own individual health status. The levels are on the longer side, as mentioned before, but they have enough to keep them interesting, while placing health pickups sparingly. Again, this game is challenging. I will admit, at the time of writing this, I am only midway through stage 5 of 7. It's one of those games where you need to walk away from and not get too frustrated after you keep dying and getting those game over screens. There's no formal checkpoints either, so that can add to frustration when getting that death animation, knowing you have to start all over. Initial gameplay score and control, 0.65. Next up, story. The story starts off quick with our returning heroes thrown right back into a nightmarish hellscape, only 1 year after the first game is set. You see Donnie and Tammy interact with the neighborhood kids, and I'll mention, they're kinda dicks, as they're getting ready to go trick-or-treating when a friend dares them to go back to the farmhouse where there's strange things brewing. So, they go and get thrusted back into chaos. The story hits its beats and adds more with a ghostly trenchcoat character who asks you to finish what he started in order to stop the ghoulish farmer. I've not played the first game of the franchise, but it seems like a similar story to the first. Stop the evil farmer, and save the day. It does what it has to do, and let's be real, it's a platformer beat-em-up for the NES. Any story added is great. Not every game can be Ninja Gaiden in that regard. Initial story score, 0.7. Lastly, is overall value. Haunted Halloween 86, Curse of Possum Hollow, is available on the eShop right now for $9.99. I've played this game for around 4 hours in total. I'm sure there's been faster times to complete it, and maybe even slower times. With the main story mode, as well as an onslaught mode, which is an enemy rush minigame with different stages and enemy types, there's a decent amount of time to be spent playing. I do feel that they missed out by not adding multiplayer to the story mode, as well as onslaught. There's 2 characters, it just kinda makes sense to be able to play with a buddy, couch co-op style. With that being said, I feel the price is fair, although I'd feel more comfortable paying $7.50. If there was a multiplayer option, I'd say $9.99 would be just fine, but that's not the case. Overall value score, 0.81. In closing, I enjoyed playing this game, although the difficulty was rather harsh. I'm glad I had the opportunity to play the game and see what this franchise is all about. I have been challenged and my patience has been tested, but that, in the end, helps me be a better gamer. With 2 chapters still yet to be completed in my playthrough, the score it gets at this point is 3.43 out of 5.